Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be talking about easier paths in 6.4. In some of the quests there are no real one contender for the easy path, so I'm going to recommend a couple depending on your roster. But the base idea is this video is going to be me trying to guide as many of you for an easier time completing 6.4. And so let's get right to it. So we're going to start with 641, which is the first quest with an Iceman boss. Now this is one of those quests where you don't have really one specific easy path. One of the kind of like three options that I'm going to be throwing out there. We're going to start off with this Biohazard and Nanoplague and Tunnel Vision path. And obviously here, champions like Corvus on boosts and Ghost and just bleed immune champions in general do not have too bad of a time overall. Additionally, there is a really great way how to use tunnel vision to your advantage, and that is to let it linger for a bit, delay the fight, and you can get a lot of free healing in, so you can basically gain a lot of free potions there along the way. So Biohazard, Nanoplague, Tunnel Vision is definitely a relatively easy path, but again, before you head right in that path, you always need to check out the final fights of any quest, because there are mini bosses and you need to be sure that you are comfortable dealing with this Tyranny Unblockable Finale Green Goblin. Another path that I can recommend depending on your roster would definitely be Bane, Power Shield, and Limber Node. For me personally, an absolute MVP here was Black Widow Clairvoyant, because she can heal all the Bane damage, and her healing or power steal or extra damage basically depends on how much actual damage you do. And because of Power Shield, you do a lot more damage on your special too, so it kind of works out really well. Obviously Ghost and full Trinity with Ghost would work extremely well, because you can bypass the Bane damage and you can dish a lot of specials and do a lot of damage extremely quickly. So that is a relatively easy fight if you have good counters for these nodes. And the last one is this new node, new lane that we had, is Thermostat, and for most part I could pretty much ignore Thermostat node as a whole. I could just parry heavy opponents and you didn't even need to have an immune champion with you. But if you had those immunities, it still could be helpful for many champions like Colossus or Human Torch, where you get extra smolders or extra armor ups. So it is a good, well designed node in my opinion. And all of those hot and bothered, and we're going to see more of these nodes across the field in 6.4. They only reduce your defensive ability accuracy, and your offensive ability accuracy typically works just fine. So for vast majority of time you can just ignore this node in general. And yeah, so those are the easiest options in 641. When it comes to the boss, I'm not going to talk too much in detail, because I'm going to be making separate videos quest by quest, kind of explaining all the paths and boss encounters. But the base idea is just an Iceman. So long as you have somebody that can deal with that cold snap damage, you're perfectly fine. You can bring in Ghost, you can bring in Corvus, any cold snap immune champion, and you're good to go. I don't think he had really anything else too kind of like tricky, and that Matador node is actually quite helpful. So that's 641. There are definitely three decent options depending on your roster and depending what you got available. Now we're going to jump on 642, and then again I'm going to nominate two kind of paths. Now in my opinion, this long distance relationship, aggression precision path probably is the easiest, because there are no really annoying encounters, and the mini boss is Rogue, which is extremely easy to deal with as well. And again, long distance relationship is a node that places debuffs on you. So long as you have willpower active, you will be able to heal along the way, so you can kind of like maintain your health extremely well. The only difficult encounter on that path is the first fight, and that's Domino. And obviously big Domino is always annoying to fight. However, the fact that it's the first fight means that you can just go in, try a couple of times. If you mess up, you don't have to commit, you can back out, start again, and that long distance relationship thing actually helps you heal up some damage. So that would be my recommendation for the first lane. Another decent good alternative is this lane, Force of Will, Static Blast, and Typhoon. Because of Static Blast, you will not be able to throw too many special attacks unless you have external power gain, but for many champions that doesn't really matter. And the last node, Typhoon, basically is to make sure that you finish opponents by the time they throw 10 special attacks, and that doesn't affect you too much. And even if you don't, you just get a small power burn damage. And the opponents on this lane, once again, are relatively easy. It's Invisible Woman, which again is arguably the trickiest fight there, but it's the first one. Then we have Psylocke, Punisher, She-Hulk, Iron Patriot, Night Rusher, Deadpool X-Force, and Dr. Octopus. And Dr. Octopus doesn't really have anything too crazy on him either. So those would be the two easier paths in 6-4-2. Now I just need to find where the boss node's at. And this Thor Ragnarok, in essence, he doesn't have too much on him. He has power efficiency, so he's going to be spamming special attacks. Aspect of Death, so you don't want to get hit by his special attacks. Prove yourself. Don't lose your combo. Unblockable specials. For most part, you can do this fight with pretty much any opponent, any champion that you do have. It is easier if you have some sort of like power control, then it's going to be easier to deal with this guy. But all in all, he does not require like very specific counter, so you can dedicate more of your team to clearing actual paths as well, which is definitely useful. And now we are going to be moving on to 6-4-3, and 6-4-3 without a doubt, Darkhawk is an annoying boss if you don't Quake. And here we again gonna have two options for relatively easy time for the first path. The easiest path in itself is gonna be the path A, that is simply True Strike and Aggression Cruelty. The path nodes are definitely easy. Blade and Void may be somewhat annoying opponents, but it's nothing too tricky. The one big bad guy at the end of the line, however, is the Annihilus, and I believe he has no retreat node on, and that is a tricky fight. But since the rest of the lane is so easy, you can focus on Annihilus, and so long as you bring in a Mystic champion and you are able to nullify that Cosmic Rod Annihilus has, it's actually quite easy fight. Champions like Dr. Doom will work perfectly here, probably Symbiote Supreme as well, and many others. Black Widow Clairvoyant, for instance, can nullify his rod and can spam level 2s, so you don't really have to bait out too many of his special attacks. It is not the easiest fight, but overall it's definitely probably the easiest path. Additionally, if you have Human Torch especially, and maybe a couple other decent options, then you can deal with this clapback feats of power path. It's quite easy as well overall, especially with Human Torch, because due to clapback node, whenever you place a poison, shock, bleed, incinerate, or plasma debuff, so with Human Torch, whenever you place an incinerate debuff on your opponent, this node tries to place an incinerate debuff on you. In case of Human Torch, that immediately converts into a Smolder, and Human Torch is going to be able to deliver a lot of damage quickly. There are a couple of fights where you will not want to use Human Torch, like Sunspot, because he's incinerate immune, unless you are using pre-fight ability. And additionally to that, Agent Venom, and I think this Vision has poison on him, so you need something for that poison node. But all in all, for the rest of the encounters, Human Torch will work perfectly, and you can dish out an incredible amount of damage much quicker than you normally would. So that is a decent option as well as one of the easier kind of like fights here. While we're speaking about Human Torch is one of the better counters for this Darkhawk. Now, first and foremost, the best counter, hands down, is Quake. You just Quake and Shake, and you don't block, and you don't care about any of his nodes. You don't care about anything else really, and it's a very simple fight then. If you do not have Quake, or you do not play Quake well enough, then Human Torch is a really good alternative. And lastly, what I got from my limited amount of kind of like testing and practice running through it, Corvus is definitely also capable of soloing that fight. The way you play it is just for first 30 seconds you rely on intercepts. Once you push him past first bar of power, it's going to be quite easy from there on, because then you can punish his special one with a combo, because he uses only half of his power. He's going to be basically continuously dropping his level 1, so you're going to be eating a lot of block damage. But as soon as you get level 2, you can drop that level 2 and deal a massive amount of damage. So Corvus is certainly a decent option in this fight as well. I'm sure there are a couple more others, but all in all, this definitely is quite an annoying boss, I must admit. But yeah, so those are kind of like the three more popular options that we have against this guy for now. All in all, I must say that yeah, just in the same way we can use Corvus here, we can probably use pretty much any high damage dealing champion. He eats a lot of block damage by blocking those level 1s. Never push him to level 2, never try to knock him down unless you go for like a massive special attack. And keeping that in mind, you should be able to get some decent results here. It's probably not going to be a one-shot with most of those other options, but you will still make a significant progress. Just your intercept game at the beginning of the fight has to be on point. And moving on, 6.44. Now 6.44 definitely has a clear favorite lane, a clear easy option, if you will, especially if you have a couple of the recommended champions available. And we all know how fun and cheesy Icarus can be, and it's no exception here. We have a lane with Icarus node, and as long as you have a champion that can abuse it, you're gonna have an absolutely fantastic time. You can use Ghost, you can use Captain Marvel movie if she's awakened, you can use a bunch of other champions. Now it has the Incinerate node on it, so ideally you do want to have some way how to deal with Incinerate debuffs. But yeah, again, Ghost is absolutely fantastic for that. Other than that, another relatively easy node, I guess, would be Energy Absorption Ice, so long as you have Cold Snap immunity and Distract. No, this was a tricky node without Captain Marvel movie. Captain Marvel movie was MVP for this quest now, remember. But yeah, Icarus node is definitely the easiest one to take, in my opinion. There's just not much to it. Hopefully you can just cheese it, and you can use many different champions to cheese it. I also think that Namor should be a really decent option for this fight if you have him for these lanes. If you have him or Ghost or Captain Marvel movie or a bunch of other champions, I would even go as far as to simply say just you can also bring in Corvus and play with 1% health. Now when you deal with the Icarus lane, there is only one kind of note again, and keep in mind every lane has like a mini boss that you will have to deal with that is stacked and has extra nodes on, and in this case that will be this Wasp with a rage node, so be prepared for her. Now just because she has rage and she's gonna go on blockable does not necessarily mean you can't still use Ghost, for instance. You're just gonna take a bit longer killing her and you're gonna have to be a bit more careful. But all in all, it was definitely like super quick, easy time cheesing through this lane with Ghost and Captain Marvel movie version. And I'm sure there are some other good options as well. Like I imagine Human Torch would do really well, and a bunch of other champions. So that is, oh, we did not talk about the boss in 6.4, Captain Marvel movie. I'm not even gonna go back really to the quest because there's nothing too tricky. It's a very simple idea. Because Captain Marvel movie has this inherent weakness to Mystic champions and taking energy damage. That's the only thing you want to do. You want to bring in a Mystic champion that's about it. Hit the block or deal energy damage to her, and she's going to take a lot of damage by herself. Many champions can super easily melt her down, like probably Longshot, like Dr. Doom has energy attacks at base. Even Dormammu would make an easy time of this Captain Marvel movie. It's one of the kind of like easier cheesable bosses in Act 6, I think, overall. And yeah, it's definitely not a hard fight if you come in prepared with a Mystic champion. And now 645 again has no clear kind of like easy cheesable nodes. I will suggest 2 lanes though for 645, and number 1, that is going to be, here we go, the Lionheart, Arc Overlord and Mirror Image. That's relatively easy. There aren't too many tricky encounters. Darkhawk is one of the trickier ones. Aside from that, there's like Green Goblin, I guess, and the Guillotine mini boss. So as long as you can deal with Arc Overlord, you're going to be fine. Now you do need to be careful that you do not try to reverse the healing, but because of Arc Overlord, it also absolutely empowers many champions that run with Mystic Dispersion or has Nullify buffs, and other than that, these fights are very basic and simple. So Mystic champions, I don't know, even a Warlock with passive heal block will work really well here. And there are so many good options. It's kind of like a very simplistic basic lane for most part that involves a lot of healing, and you basically nullifying this healing either with heal block or just nullifying the buffs themselves, because they are active buffs and they will continuously feed your Mystic Dispersion. And also, for Mystic Champions, a good thing is that mirror image, whenever you gain your dexterity buff, they will copy it as well from you and have a bit longer duration on that, but it is a buff that does expire, so it again feeds the Mystic Dispersion, so it is quite a easy time. Now, if you're not so high and mighty on Mystic Champions, then a decent alternative for you will be the Spry, Ghast, and Mix Master chapter, where if you have any decent good evade counters, you have absolutely no problem dealing with this lane, because the encounters there are relatively easy for most part. You just need to make sure opponents don't evade, and since there is no limber, you can literally bring in any champion, parry, medium, light, medium, parry, like medium, light, medium, whatever. Opponents cannot evade. Relatively easy time on this lane, or you can just bring in any true strike champions and capitalize on that and just play perfectly as normal. So I can bring in like Corvus, get the mission on the first fight and just carry on beating down your opponents. Bring in Ghost, only play with like mediums or medium lights, and yeah, you're done. So again, if you do not feel like dealing with Arc Overload node, then this Spry Ghast lane is also going to be a relatively easy prey for you on your way to completion. Now, that Hydra Adaptoid boss is actually relatively simple as far as I'm concerned. I know some people have been complaining because if you come unprepared, he will be a tricky opponent. But so long as you can deal with A buffs or B unstoppable in particular, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. She-Hulk was able to solo this guy multiple times over and over in very simple fight. Stealth Enhanced Spider-Man is a good option. Captain America Infinity War, why not? And so many more champions that are capable. Only thing that you need to kind of be wary of, that he has Vigor, so you do need to be able to deal a lot of damage or be able to like heal reverse. But all in all, important note is he does not have level 3, so you can use that to your advantage to push him to level 3. And Matador node also makes it easy for you to spam your own special attacks as long as you can bypass that unstoppable node. So again, Mystic champions or any champions with slow or Captain America Infinity War or champions of similar nature will make it quick and easy work of this guy. Nothing too much to worry about. And that will leave us to the final quest. And 646 is the final quest with the Grandmaster. So first and foremost, I just want to quickly address, I'm not going to be going over Grandmaster fight too much, but the base point is that pretty much any champion can do that fight. So that means you do not really need to bring in counters for Grandmaster. Yes, there are some champions who do better. Morningstar is fantastic, Captain America Infinity War, Dr. Doom, Aegon, which are typically your regular suspects for the lanes anyways. But the nature of the fight basically shows and proves that any champion can do that fight. It's you who has to do that fight, not the champion that you're using though. So you can focus on having your best teams for the lanes themselves. And again, the easiest lane, in my opinion, for like a regular kind of like an average play would be this Tenacity lane, because there's nothing really to it. Opponents have increased buff duration, who cares? And they have Tenacity, so you can have trouble landing your debuffs. But you can bring in any champion that does not rely on debuffs and just go through it. Now, there are a couple of notable encounters. Number one would be this Annihilus, again with Tenacity. But Annihilus is an easy prey for any champion so long as you have access to Nullify. So Dr. Doom had an absolutely easy time with this guy, but most of the Mystic champions would also be capable of completely destroying this guy. Like Black Widow Clairvoyant or Symbiote Supreme or whoever else is trending these days, I guess. And this Vision Arcus, so you obviously have to have some counter for Vision Arcus. Ideally, again, Dr. Doom would be pretty much perfect because you can't get your armor broken, which means you can't get the Cold Snap debuff, and you have ability to nullify his power gains, so you can capitalize on them instead. But there are plenty of other champions that can deal with Vision Arcus, and I'm sure you guys are aware. Just wanted to make sure you guys know that. And other than that, yeah, the fight's very simple. But if you feel like having a bit more adventurous time and if you love some cheese tactics, then you are also able to capitalize on this aggression, fury, and baying node. That is exactly what I did when I cleared this line as well. So I basically just used Heimdall and Electro, and what I did is I was hitting their blocks until they got to a decent amount of furies, then got hit on purpose and they died immediately. Now there are a couple of fights where you will not want to be doing that, like this Red Skull, because you cannot strike Red Skull's block at all whatsoever, so that's important to keep in mind. Wasp might be a bit tricky as well, but other than that, you can cheese most of these fights and then take a couple of these fights like seriously and just clear them as normal. And yeah, it was a relatively easy lane as well. Now when it comes to these abilities that you can disable or enable on the Grandmaster, I'll be absolutely honest, I hardly noticed any real relevance or change. I mean, obviously they do affect the fight, but it didn't matter too much. Like infuriation time is reduced by 50%, however his wounded state is also reduced. So actually, I think it's better if his wounded is longer and infuriation stays as normal. So I don't even really want to take it off, but it's supposed to be benefit. So it's like these small minor changes to the Grandmaster fight. The Grandmaster's attack rating is reduced by 50%, however tokens of competence now stack to a maximum of 8. It's cool, but it's one of those, like, it effectively does alter the fight in very slight minor ways, but it doesn't change too much in it, and the fight still pretty much stays the same. All the mechanics stay the same, only like sometimes level 1 is blockable, sometimes level 1 is unblockable, the first beam, so on and so forth. So really I wasn't even properly reading these because they didn't alter the fight mechanics themselves. And yeah, when it comes to dealing with Grandmaster, I will inevitably be making a video on that and trying my best to explain how to deal with that fight, as well as give some easier counters. But again, Grandmaster fight doesn't really matter who you use as much as how you play. So I do like that fight. I definitely think that Grandmaster fight is one of the best, if not the best designed fight ever in MCOC, and whoever made it did an awesome job. Overall, 6.4 is challenging, but it did not feel like as complete BS either. So for most part, I definitely do like the design of 6.4 much more, and hopefully so will you, because that was the point. This video is my attempt to try and help you guys have easier time on completion, and hopefully I have achieved that. If you do have any questions, do let me know in the comment section below. Other than that, stay tuned for quest breakdowns. We're going to be going through from quest 1 to 6. I'm going to be discussing all of the paths on there and some more notable encounters, some better options and some better champions to use, so on and so forth, in order to help you guys explore 6.4 as well. All of that being said, do not forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. See ya.